You've been doing it all along. Every thought, every emotion, every breath you take. And it's not just happening inside you. It's happening to the field around you. What most people don't realize is that they're already manipulating energy. They're just doing it unconsciously, scattered, unfocused, unaware. And when you're unaware, the results feel random, chaotic, unpredictable. But the moment you become aware, the moment you realize that the so-called external world is just a mirror, reflecting the vibrations you broadcast, that's when life begins to shift in a way that seems almost supernatural. Here's the truth most people are missing. You're not separate from the energy you want to influence. You're submerged in it. You are an extension of the very field you're trying to shape. In that field, it's listening to you, not to your words, not to your effort, but to your state. This is the subconscious connection. This is the invisible current running underneath everything you think, say, and do. Pause for a second. Think about the last time something happened in your life that felt like a coincidence, a perfectly timed encounter, an opportunity appearing out of nowhere, or a moment when you just knew what was about to happen. Those weren't accidents. They were quantum events, ripples in the field responding to the frequencies you were emitting, whether you realized it or not. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. It's not your conscious mind doing the heavy lifting. It's your subconscious. Your subconscious doesn't care what you say you want. It responds to what you actually believe, what you consistently feel, and what you habitually expect. That's why affirmations without emotional backing often fail. That's why visualizations with doubt underneath collapse. Because the subconscious connection is the back door to the field. And until you unlock that door, you're just decorating the front porch. Quantum events are not magic tricks. They are the result of interactions between your inner world and the quantum fabric of reality. Think about it like this. Your thoughts send out signals. Your emotions magnetize those signals. And your subconscious alignment determines the clarity of the transmission. Together, they either create interference, noise that cancels itself out, or coherence, a clear instruction to the field. The question is not if you're manipulating energy, it's how well you're doing it. Look around your life right now. The circumstances you're living in, the relationships you're surrounded by, the opportunities or lack thereof you're experiencing, all of it is a perfect reflection of the signals you've been broadcasting up until this moment.
This is not a failure. This is a flare-up, the final expression of a frequency that knows it's about to lose its dominance over your life. The subconscious doesn't relinquish its control quietly. It will test your resolve. It will tempt you back into the familiar. It will present you with opportunities to choose the old self again, because that's what it knows how to do. This is why so many people unconsciously sabotage themselves right before a breakthrough. Not because they are weak, but because they are unprepared for the emotional discomfort of leaving behind what is familiar, even when what is familiar is painful. Here's another key sign. You begin to feel emotionally stretched, as if you are standing between two versions of yourself. One part of you is longing for expansion, for new possibilities, for the manifestation of the life you've envisioned. The other part of you is gripping tightly to the known, to the safe, to the patterns that have defined your existence up to this point. This internal tug of war is a hallmark of the quantum shift process. It's uncomfortable, but it's also a sign that you are exactly where you need to be. At this point, many people make one of two choices. They retreat, defaulting back to their old vibrational baseline, repeating the same reality yet again, or they lean into the discomfort, recognizing it as a signal that they are on the threshold of something profoundly different. The choice you make here determines whether you continue looping or whether you shift. There is also a physiological marker that often accompanies this moment. Your body will resist. You might feel fatigue, tension, anxiety, restlessness, or even mild symptoms of illness. This is because your nervous system is processing the energetic dissonance between your old identity and the new frequency you are beginning to inhabit. Your body has been conditioned to the stress, the limitations, the emotional habits of your previous reality. Moving beyond that conditioning requires a period of adjustment, a kind of vibrational detox. It's important to understand that this discomfort is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. On the contrary, it's evidence that you are disrupting the loop. The system is reacting not to harm you, but to protect the old paradigm. But if you interpret this discomfort as failure, you will retreat. If you recognize it as a necessary part of the process, you will persist and you will shift. Let's make this more practical. Imagine you're in the process of manifesting a new relationship, a new job, a new level of financial abundance. You've been doing the inner work, setting intentions, visualizing, aligning your actions, but then, out of nowhere, an old fear surfaces. What if I'm not good enough? What if I get hurt again? What if it doesn't work? That fear triggers familiar behaviors. You pull back, you procrastinate, you lower your standards, you settle. The loop is reactivating itself. But what if in that moment, instead of defaulting to the old behavior, you paused? What if you recognized the fear not as a truth, but as a residue of your previous frequency? What if you chose in that moment to breathe? To regulate your nervous system, to stay present with the discomfort without collapsing into it. That is the moment of quantum shift. Not when you force a new reality, but when you stop reacting to the old one. Another sign that you are on the edge of a shift is synchronicity. Not just the appearance of external signs, but the subtle alignment of internal and external realities. You might notice recurring numbers, symbolic dreams, unexpected opportunities, or moments where your thoughts seem almost to manifest instantly. These are indications that your vibrational field is becoming more coherent, more aligned with the potential reality you are calling in. However, these signs alone are not enough. They are invitations, not guarantees. The real question is, how will you respond when they appear? Will you trust the unfolding even when it feels unfamiliar?
So let's carry this forward. You've now understood the difference between scattered energy and aligned energy. But the next layer is where things get really interesting. Because coherence alone isn't enough. There's a deeper mechanism in play, a dance between you and the field that determines whether your intentions collapse into actual events. You're about to discover the hidden architecture behind quantum manifestation, the mechanics of probability, expectation, and wave collapse. We're going to explore how small shifts inside you ripple outward and reorganize the very fabric of your reality. Stay with me, because we'll uncover why some people experience quantum leaps and synchronicities effortlessly, while others feel stuck in the same loops, no matter how hard they try. So now you know, coherence is your access point. But alignment alone is only part of the equation. To truly influence the field, you need to understand the dance of probability, the invisible game happening beneath every moment of your life. Because here's the secret most people overlook. The universe doesn't deliver your desires just because you want them. It delivers what you're tuned to expect. Let me explain. In quantum physics, we talk about wave functions, possibilities that exist simultaneously until something collapses them into a single outcome. At the subatomic level, reality is a shimmering soup of probabilities waiting to crystallize into form. But what collapses the wave? What decides which version of reality becomes the one you experience? The observer. Not the passive observer, not the one watching life from the sidelines, but the active observer. The one whose focus, expectation, and belief act as the needle that weaves potential into form. And this is where most people get stuck. They practice their visualizations, they set their intentions, they repeat their affirmations, but underneath all of it, they carry an invisible script of doubt, fear, and limitation. They look at their bank account and expect lack. They look at their relationships and expect rejection. They look at their body and expect failure. And so the field obliges. Not because it's punishing them, but because it's responding to the dominant signal. Your conscious mind can say, "I'm abundant." But if your subconscious is running the program, "There's never enough," the field listens to the deeper broadcast. This is why so many people feel stuck. Even when they're doing all the right things, they're trying to override the subconscious with surface-level rituals without addressing the core expectations shaping their field. Here's where the real magic begins. When you start aligning not just your thoughts, but your beliefs and assumptions, you begin to shift probabilities in the quantum field. Tiny changes in how you hold yourself, how you think, how you feel. These are the levers that tip reality in your favor. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. You just have to create enough momentum that the wave function begins to tilt toward your desired outcome. Imagine you're walking through a hallway lined with doors. Each door represents a possible version of the next moment, the next day, the next chapter. You don't open all of them. You open the one you expect to open. And that expectation is shaped by your dominant state, your subconscious story, your felt sense of possibility. This is why people who shift internally often experience sudden, unexpected external changes. They've altered the baseline probability, and the universe has no choice but to reorganize itself to match. But here's the catch. Expectation isn't something you can fake. You can't chant, "I'm wealthy," while secretly feeling terrified of your bills and expect the field to reward you. The field isn't fooled by words, it listens to vibration. So the real work becomes softening the grip of limiting assumptions, loosening the knots of resistance, and gradually training your body, mind, and heart to hold a new baseline of possibility. What does that look like in practice? It looks like noticing when you shrink in fear and breathing through it instead of collapsing. It looks like catching yourself expecting the worst and choosing, even for a moment, to imagine the best. It looks like rehearsing success in your nervous system, not just in your mind. And over time, something shifts. The probability field begins to reorganize. events align.
It's where your power lives. The more you can witness without collapsing into reaction, the more space you create for a different signal to emerge. Third, disengage from urgency. The quantum field is timeless. When you feel desperate, frantic, or rushed to manifest something, your body is signaling lack and disconnection. Even if your mind is visualizing the desired outcome, slow down. You don't need to chase what's already yours in the field. You need to become a match for it. Remember, reality doesn't shift when you try harder. It shifts when your frequency no longer supports the old. When the energetic infrastructure of your current reality begins to dissolve because it is no longer being held together by your beliefs, your behaviors, your emotions, and your self-concept. One powerful shift. Stop asking for proof. Stop needing signs that it's working. When you look for proof too soon, you're signaling doubt. Instead, treat the lack of evidence as a test of your new embodiment. Smile when it doesn't look like it's working, because that's when you know you're starting to anchor a deeper frequency. So much of manifestation isn't about getting more. It's about removing interference, removing the noise, the tension, the urgency, the old expectations that keep you bound to what no longer fits. The more you remove, the more naturally the signal comes through. You don't have to build the new you from scratch. You just have to stop reinforcing the one you've outgrown. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you already are beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and repetition. And this shift is not linear. It doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like stillness, sometimes like contraction. But if you stay coherent, if you keep returning to the signal of your future self again and again, even quietly, even subtly, the quantum field begins to respond in ways you could never have forced into existence. Because the field doesn't respond to your timeline. It responds to your alignment. And alignment isn't a mindset, it's a vibrational home. So let me ask you now, if you're feeling this shift happening, if you know you're in that space between, if something in your body is awakening, comment below. I'm ready to shift. Not just because I asked, but because this is your moment to claim it, to speak from your new self, to anchor a new frequency in the field, not just with thoughts, but with resonance. And now we're almost there.
Because here's the truth most people never hear. The universe is wired to support coherence. The field wants to align with you. Life is biased toward evolution, expansion, creation. When you get out of the way, you're not abandoning your power. You're stepping into a deeper current of it. And now, as we move into the final section, we're going to bring everything together. We've explored the subconscious connection. We've looked at coherence. We've understood the mechanics of probability and wave collapse. We've unpacked the paradox of surrender, but none of it matters unless you embody it. In the next section, we'll explore what it means to live as the signal, not just occasionally, not just when you're meditating or visualizing, but as your default state. This is where you stop trying to create quantum events and start becoming the quantum event. We're almost there. Are you ready to integrate all of this into the way you move through life? Let's continue. Now you understand. You're not here to learn how to control energy. You're here to become it. Because energy responds to energy. The field responds to signal. And quantum events? They don't come to those who chase, they come to those who match. When you walk through life as the signal, embodied, coherent, surrendered, the field doesn't hesitate. It organizes itself around you. Circumstances rearrange, timelines shift, people enter, doors open, not because you forced it, not because you earned it, but because you finally stopped pretending to be separate from the current that has always been flowing through you. This is what it means to live as the quantum event. Not as a theory, not as a practice you visit once a day in meditation, but as a baseline state. A way of being that says, I know who I am. I know what I'm aligned with. I know what I've come to signal into this world. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for proof before you believe. Because belief is the proof. Identity is the engine. Vibration is the invitation. You don't create from lack. You don't visualize from fear. You don't manifest from maybe. You radiate. And what you radiate becomes inevitable. Let's ground this for a moment. Living as the signal doesn't mean you never wobble. It doesn't mean you never feel doubt, frustration, sadness. It means those states don't dominate anymore. They don't define your vibration. They pass through, but they don't take root. You know who you are beneath them, and that's what the field responds to. Think of yourself like a lighthouse. It doesn't chase ships. It just stands tall, anchored in its own frequency, pulsing a signal through the storm. That's your job. That's the practice. Not to control the waves, but to become the steady light in the middle of them.
When you live this way, something changes. People around you feel it. They don't know why, but they feel safer near you, inspired, activated. Opportunities start to arrive out of nowhere. Synchronicities become daily. The right words come to you at the right time. You'll begin to sense that life is responding to you, not reacting, not resisting, not withholding, but listening and reflecting back the energy you now carry. And you'll realize something even more powerful. You've always been this. You just forgot. You forgot that your subconscious is not a storage unit of trauma. It's a broadcast tower of vibration. You forgot that coherence isn't just a nice concept. It's the switch that turns your reality on. You forgot that letting go isn't giving up. It's stepping aside so the field can do what it already knows how to do. You forgot that your very presence is a signal. And now you remember. So what happens now? Now you walk differently. You breathe differently. You speak as someone who's not asking for reality to change, but inviting it into alignment with what's already true. You no longer try to become something. You remember that you already are it. The field doesn't need your effort, it needs your signal. And if you take nothing else from this video, let it be this. The version of you that lives the life you dream of is not somewhere else. It's not in the future. It's not on the other side of endless healing or hustling or earning. That version is in the field right now, entangled with you, waiting for you to stop pretending you're not already connected. So the real question becomes, will you choose to tune to it fully, unapologetically, and consistently until it becomes the most natural thing in the world? Because when you do, the quantum responds. Drop a word in the comments that describes your next shift. It can be trust, flow, release, or anything that feels right. Your word becomes part of your signal. And if this touched you, hit subscribe. Let's keep growing together. Remember this, you are not here to chase change. You are here to become it. And the moment you do, the universe moves with you.